Orange dress on the show was such a, hit.
Yeah.
That, I feel after COVID, we really need bright colors, and I like everybody wearing bright colors. I like to look at them myself, so I figured I don't have that many in my closet, so I've been hunting for them as the shows go on.
Yeah.
In 1967, Tina Louise was one of the most recognizable faces on television. Then she disappeared. Her Gilligan's Island co-stars wondered what happened. Producers called her difficult. But the truth was different. She'd been running from something since she was 6 years old. Something that happened at a boarding school on visiting days. Something about empty chairs and silent Sundays. At 90, she's breaking her silence. And the reason she walked away will change how you see every celebrity. Tina Louise was born on February 11, 1934, in New York City. Her birth name was Tina Blacker. Her father, Joseph, owned a candy store in Brooklyn. Her mother, Sylvia Horn, was only 18 and already working as a fashion model. From the beginning, Tina lived between two very different worlds. One was sweet and steady, like the candy shop. The other was fast, flashy, and full of bright lights, the world of fashion. That contrast would shape her entire life. But things didn't stay steady for long. When Tina was just 4 years old, her parents divorced. It was the late 1930s, a time when divorce carried a heavy stigma. After that, Tina's life became unstable. She moved from one relative's home to another. Sometimes she was placed in boarding schools. Her father stayed busy with the candy store, and her mother was chasing modeling jobs. Tina never stayed in one place long enough to feel settled. Home became a moving target, and love became something she watched other kids receive. Her mother remarried more than once. With each new husband came a new stepfather, and Tina was shuffled again. Sometimes she had to leave a home without warning. She once said she felt like luggage, carried around but never truly seen. These constant changes didn't bring her comfort. Instead, they deepened the hole her father's absence and her mother's unpredictability had already left. No one asked what she wanted. No one stayed long enough to find out. At 6 years old, she was sent to the Ardsley School for Girls, a boarding school in upstate New York. The school was strict. Personal items weren't allowed. Rules were everywhere. She lost even the small things that made her feel like herself. Toys, pictures, keepsakes, gone. Affection was rare, if it existed at all. Surrounded by other girls, Tina felt more alone than ever. She missed love, missed comfort, missed someone saying, "You matter." Sundays were visiting days. That was when the other girls' families came. They brought hugs, snacks, and updates from home. But most Sundays, Tina sat waiting. Her mother and father rarely showed up. She watched the room fill with joy and then empty out, leaving her behind. Over and over again. The silence after the last visitor left became familiar. That pain never left her. When Tina Louise was in high school, something small happened that ended up changing her entire life. She was sitting in drama class when her teacher asked what her full name was. She replied, "Tina Blacker." The teacher asked if she had a middle name. She didn't. So, on the spot, the teacher suggested one. Louise. Just like that. It wasn't planned. It wasn't a big decision. But Tina loved the name immediately. It felt elegant. It felt like her. From that day on, she started using it, not just in school, but everywhere. Over time, Louise became more than just a middle name. It became her stage name. Eventually, it replaced Blacker completely. And the funny part? It didn't come from an agent or a PR team. It came from a casual moment in a classroom. Tina Louise's career didn't begin on a stage or in front of a movie camera. It began when she was just 2 years old. Her father owned a candy store, and she appeared in a commercial for it. That was her first taste of the spotlight. Her mother had been a model too, so Tina grew up surrounded by that world. She watched, learned, and followed in those footsteps. As a teenager, she started doing modeling jobs. Some of the photos were considered quite daring at the time, pin-up-style shots that showed off her beauty and confidence. This was the 1950s, when such photos could still stir up controversy. But Tina didn't shy away. She used her looks and her presence to stand out. Those modeling gigs gave her money, yes, but more importantly, they taught her how to pose, how to light a shot, and how to connect with the camera. All skills she would carry into her acting career. But Tina wasn't just another pretty face chasing fame. She wanted to be good, really good, at acting. So she went where the serious actors went. First, she studied under Sanford Meisner at the neighborhood playhouse. Meisner taught actors to respond honestly and in the moment. He didn't want fake emotions. He wanted truth. Tina took that to heart. Then she took it even further. She went to the Actors Studio and trained with Lee Strasberg, the man behind method acting. Strasberg's method was different. He asked actors to dig deep into their own memories and feelings. It was intense. It was raw. But it worked. His students included legends like Marlon Brando and James Dean. Tina wanted to be seen in that same light, not just glamorous, but talented. In 1956, still in her teens, Tina landed her first major role in the musical Lil Abner. The show opened on November 15th and ran for a solid 693 performances, an impressive run that gave her real visibility. She played a flamboyant character named Appassionata von Climax. It was a big break, and she shared her dressing room with another actress, also making her Broadway debut. But Tina wasn't new to the stage. Years earlier, she had appeared in Two's Company, a Bette Davis musical revue, in 1952. She also had roles in John Murray Anderson's Almanac and Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter? Still, Lil Abner was the one that caught Hollywood's eye. The strong reviews opened the door to film offers and gave her career a new direction. 2 years later, in 1958, Tina made her Hollywood debut, and it was explosive. She played Griselda in God's Little Acre, directed by Anthony Mann. It wasn't just a film, it was a spotlight moment at the Venice Film Festival. The role earned her the Golden Globe for New Star of the Year. That kind of recognition didn't come easy, especially for a debut. Columbia Pictures knew she had star power. To boost her image, they arranged Playboy photo shoots in both May 1958 and April 1959. Tina also appeared in several pin-up magazines, Adam, Sir, Modern Man, and even in the 1958 Fredericks of Hollywood catalog. Unlike many actresses of the time, she balanced serious film roles with modeling work. It helped her appeal to both critics and the public. Even with success in Hollywood, Tina never turned her back on Broadway. In 1964, she returned to the stage, this time opposite Carol Burnett in Fade Out, Fade In. It opened on May 26 at the Mark Hellinger Theater and ran until April 17, 1965, with 271 performances. Tina played Gloria Curie in a musical, written by Betty Comden and Adolph Green, with music by Jules Stein. Jack Cassidy played Byron Prong and earned a Tony nomination for his role. But midway through the run, Tina made a bold decision. She left the show to play Ginger Grant on Gilligan's Island. At the time, many serious actors avoided television, thinking it was beneath them. But Tina saw the potential. The show launched in 1964 and became a cultural touchstone. That move showed how sharp her instincts were. She didn't limit herself to just one kind of role either. After God's Little Acre, she jumped into darker material like the 1959 noir film The Trap with Richard Widmark. That same year, she appeared in two westerns, The Hangman with Robert Taylor, directed by Michael Curtis, and Day of the Outlaw with Robert Ryan. Then came a surprise. She went to Italy. Most American actresses didn't do that. But Tina starred in The Siege of Syracuse, 1960, opposite Rossano Brazzi and Silva Coscina, a historical film about the Roman siege during the Second Punic War. She played Sappho in The Warrior Empress and even took on 3 roles in The Siege of Syracuse. She could have done the film version of Lil Abner or taken a part in Operation Petticoat, but she passed on both to work in Europe. She wanted depth, not just fame. When Tina Louise was cast as Ginger Grant in Gilligan's Island back in 1964, she wasn't just some rising star. She had already won a Golden Globe for God's Little Acre in 1958 and had earned respect on Broadway. So when she took the role of the glamorous movie star stranded on a deserted island, she expected it to be something special. And it was, just not in the way she hoped. The show itself didn't start out as a huge hit. It ran for only 3 seasons, from 1964 to 1967, and wasn't a ratings monster during its original run. But once it hit syndication, everything changed. The show took off. Kids watched it after school. Families watched it at dinner. It aired in more than 30 countries. Tina Louise's face was everywhere, on lunchboxes, in comic books, even on merchandise decades later. Ginger Grant wasn't just a character anymore. She had become the Hollywood bombshell, and Tina had become the face of her. But the fame came with a price. Tina had been promised a smart, multi-dimensional role, a mix of Lucille Ball's humor and Marilyn Monroe's allure. That's what convinced her to leave a strong run on Broadway and sign on to a silly island comedy. But when she arrived on set, the script had changed. Instead of a complex woman, Ginger was now just a joke, a vain, one-note beauty whose job was to swish her hips and toss out shallow lines. Tina was furious. She said the new version of Ginger was ridiculous and told the CBS executives she didn't sign up for this. It wasn't just personal pride. Tina believed Hollywood had a pattern. Take a beautiful woman and lock her in a box. Make her dumb. Make her sexy. Don't let her be human. That's how she felt Ginger had been rewritten. And that feeling never went away. As the show went on, her frustration grew into something more serious. She clashed with producers constantly. She wanted more screen time. She wanted better lines. She wanted the version of Ginger she'd been promised. But the producers had other ideas. She even refused to do certain scenes. One time, she locked herself in her dressing room and wouldn't come out until Sherwood Schwartz, the show's creator, talked her down personally. He said she used to call scenes ridiculous and simply refused to do them. And it wasn't just the writers and producers she distanced herself from. Rumors swirled that she rarely talked to her co-stars off camera and kept to herself between takes. Still, Tina stayed professional when it counted. She delivered. No matter how much she hated the direction the show had taken, her performance made Ginger unforgettable. And even though she brought drama behind the scenes, it never showed when the cameras were rolling. When Gilligan's Island was canceled, it didn't fade away. It exploded in syndication. There were reunion specials, animated spin-offs, and made-for-TV movies across the 70s and 80s. But Tina Louise wanted nothing to do with them. She was the only cast member who refused to come back. The producers had to replace her with actress Judith Baldwin in the reunion movies. That's how deep her resentment ran. She felt the show had typecast her so badly that it wrecked her chances at serious dramatic work. Even years later, she believed it had damaged her career. Sherwood Schwartz himself admitted Tina felt trapped by the show's legacy. He said she was mad at the show and believed it had stuck her in a stereotype. She didn't want to be Ginger Grant anymore. Not on TV, not in interviews, not in real life. She avoided reunions. She skipped the nostalgia. And when she did show up, on the rare talk show or special, it was only briefly. For her, Gilligan's Island wasn't a happy memory. It was a warning. When Dawn Wells passed away in 2020, Tina Louise became the last surviving member of the original cast. The final link to a show that had made her famous and frustrated her in equal measure. She had once been promised a complex role. Instead, she became a symbol. And no matter how far she ran from Ginger Grant, the island followed her everywhere. After Gilligan's Island ended in 1967, Tina Louise was stuck. She had trained at the Actors Studio and earned early praise for serious roles like in God's Little Acre, 1958. But none of that mattered anymore. To Hollywood, she was Ginger Grant, the glamorous movie star stranded on a tropical island. The role made her famous, but it also trapped her. Casting agents couldn't see her as anything else. They didn't care about her talent. They just saw the wig, the red lipstick, and the high heels. It frustrated her deeply. The original idea for Ginger was a Marilyn Monroe clone. But as the show evolved, so did the character. Writers gave her more depth, and Tina leaned into that. Still, no one gave her credit. Producers passed her over. She refused to return for the 3 reunion movies. Rumors spread, especially about tensions with co-star Bob Denver. Eventually, 5 other actresses played Ginger in spin-offs and specials. The role that brought her fame also froze her career. That was the brutal cost of TV stardom in the 60s. But Tina didn't give up. She fought to prove she was more than Ginger. In 1968, she starred in The Wrecking Crew, a spy spoof with Dean Martin. Sharon Tate was in it too. It was one of her last films. Then came The Happy Ending in 1969, where Tina played a woman trapped in suburban boredom. It was a serious story about unhappy housewives, not comedy. In 1975, she appeared in The Stepford Wives. The film became iconic. Her role as one of the robotic, submissive wives was haunting, and critics noticed. It was a powerful moment for her. Even in the 1980s and 90s, Tina stayed active. She took a role in Robert Altman's O.C. and Stiggs, 1987, and played opposite a young Brad Pitt in Johnny Swede, 1992. These weren't blockbusters, but they showed her courage. She picked bold indie projects when many had written her off. She also returned to television. In 1978, she joined Dallas as Julie Gray, the secretary who had a secret affair with J.R. Ewing. It didn't end well for her character, but it showed Tina could handle drama. She wasn't just a sitcom beauty. She tackled tough TV movies, too. In Nightmare in Badham County, 1976, she played a brutal prison matron. In Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby, she stepped into horror. She guest starred on shows like Bonanza, It Takes a Thief, and Ironside. In 1990, she even appeared on Married with Children, poking fun at her image. Tina wasn't just surviving Hollywood, she was evolving. Her personal life had its own highs and heartbreaks. In 1966, she married Les Crane. He was a bold radio and TV personality, famous for his edgy interviews. They were a high-profile couple. In 1970, they had a daughter, Caprice. Just a year later, they divorced. In 1969, they played a fictional married couple on Love, American Style, an odd mix of real life and TV. Tina later admitted it was hard to juggle motherhood and a career, especially as a single parent. But she never stopped trying. Caprice Crane grew up to become a novelist and MTV producer. Her first book, Stupid and Contagious, came out in 2006. She dedicated it to her mother. That gesture said everything. Tina may have struggled in love, but she gave her daughter the support she had never known. Years after divorcing Les Crane, Tina married again, this time to film producer Craig S. Baumgarten in 1978. He worked on movies like Hook and Shattered, but by 1991, that marriage ended too. It was another painful chapter. But Tina stayed focused on her daughter, her work, and eventually her quiet efforts to give back. She rarely spoke about her pain, but in interviews, she opened up about her childhood. She said there was no affection, no warmth. She grew up feeling unloved. That absence shaped her life. She once said, "Nobody ever read to me." That's why she joined Learning Leaders, a volunteer group that read to underprivileged kids in New York. She did it for 30 years. Every week, she read to children who needed what she never had. After decades in Hollywood, Tina Louise quietly stepped away from the spotlight. But instead of fading out, she turned her energy towards something most stars never even consider: giving back. Since the early 1990s, she spent over 30 years volunteering as a reading tutor with Learning Leaders in New York City. This wasn't a quick charity appearance or a photo op. Tina showed up week after week, year after year, helping children from struggling communities learn how to read. She worked with hundreds of students, not just teaching them words on a page, but giving them something she never had growing up: confidence. Her dedication didn't go unnoticed. The nonprofit and local media praised her again and again. She used her name to raise money, join public campaigns, and push for stronger literacy programs in the city. For Tina, this wasn't just volunteering, it was healing. Her own childhood had been filled with emotional neglect. She once said that she knew what it felt like to grow up without support, so she became that support for others. Writing became another outlet. In 2010, she released a deeply personal book called Sunday, a Memoir. It was raw and honest. She opened up about the pain of growing up without love or guidance. The book made waves. People didn't expect that level of vulnerability from someone they only knew as Ginger from Gilligan's Island. But Tina didn't stop there. She turned to children's books, publishing When I Grow Up in 2013, which encouraged kids to dream big. Then in 2015, she released What Does a Bee Do?, which mixed storytelling with environmental lessons about the importance of bees. Both books reflected her commitment to shaping young minds, not with glamour, but with wisdom and care. Art also became part of her life. During the late 2000s and early 2010s, Tina's paintings were shown in New York galleries like Chelsea Art Gallery and Soho Contemporary. Her work explored nature, emotion, and personal change. Critics saw deep feeling in her brush strokes. Some pieces were abstract, others more literal, but all of them came from a place of truth. Many of her paintings ended up in charity auctions. Through art, she found yet another way to speak, to express, and to give. Even though she stepped back from fame, acting never left her completely. After Gilligan's Island, she refused to be boxed into one role. She played a heroin addict in a gritty 1974 episode of Kojak, then a cruel prison guard in the 1976 film Nightmare in Badham County. Years later, in 1991, she acted alongside a young Brad Pitt in Johnny Suede, an indie film that later won the Gold Leopard Award at a festival in Switzerland. Incredibly, she returned to the screen in 2014 with the horror movie Late Phases, and again in 2019's Tapestry, a spiritual drama. She was 85 at the time, still choosing bold, challenging roles that defied Hollywood's ideas about aging. Today, Tina Louise holds a strange, bittersweet title. She's the last surviving main cast member of Gilligan's Island. All 6 of her co-stars have passed, including Dawn Wells, who died in 2020 from COVID complications. Tina has talked about this a few times. She once said the rumors about her disliking the Ginger role were false. "I really loved my character," she said. And even now, she gets letters from fans saying the show brought them joy during hard times, especially during the pandemic. That kind of legacy is rare, but life hasn't been easy. Tina has faced her share of loss. She's spoken openly about depression, the struggle of growing older in the public eye, and the heartbreak of losing her dog, Rosie. That loss hit her hard. Rosie wasn't just a pet, she was family. Tina's openness about these struggles is unusual for someone from her generation of Hollywood, where stars were expected to be flawless, but she chose truth over image. That's what made her relatable. Now, in her 90s, Tina Louise enjoys a peaceful life in New York, away from the spotlight that once defined her. The last surviving cast member of Gilligan's Island, she has embraced a new chapter focused on her health, family, and painting. It's a quiet existence, yet her creativity has remained at the forefront. She spends hours in her art studio, and her paintings have even been displayed in local galleries. Tina still loves acting, taking on select roles that speak to her, showing that her artistic spirit is as strong as ever. Despite her years, she's managed to reinvent herself from a 1960s television icon into a respected artist and family matriarch. A rare transformation in the world of entertainment, as recent features in 2023 highlight. Her daily life is simple but disciplined. Tina's morning walks have been part of her routine for decades. They're a time for reflection and connection to her surroundings, keeping her mind sharp and body strong. Her diet mirrors this commitment to health, focusing on fresh vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains, while steering clear of processed foods and sugars. She's not just aiming for longevity, but a high quality of life, remaining active, engaged, and, most importantly, deeply connected to her family. Her bond with her daughter Caprice is especially close. They talk often, and Tina cherishes the time spent with her grandchildren, finding joy in these quiet family moments. Interviews from 2023 and 2024 paint a picture of a woman who prioritizes health and love over everything else. A refreshing departure from the Hollywood aging stereotypes. Looking back on her life, Tina reflects on the lessons she's learned. She's candid about the hardships she's faced, both in her career and personal life, but it's her approach to life that's truly inspiring. Tina emphasizes the importance of being present, living in the now. She finds happiness in the smallest of acts, a walk, a painting session, or sharing a meal with loved ones. These moments, she says, are what matter most, far beyond any fame or recognition. Her words, shared in interviews and essays from 2022 to 2024, carry a message of gratitude and resilience, reminding us all that fulfillment often lies in the simple, everyday things. Tina's legacy also extends beyond her acting roles. As someone who faced the challenge of typecasting, especially in her iconic role as Ginger Grant on Gilligan's Island, she encourages others to pursue their passions without being defined by public perception or industry expectations. Her career, filled with both celebrated roles and the struggle to break free from them, reflects her message of self-empowerment. In talks and interviews over the past few years, she's urged aspiring creatives to focus on personal growth and to remain true to themselves rather than seeking validation from others.